You are listening to A Scary State, and this week we're talking about Michigan. Isn't that right, Roy boy? So, Lauren.
Yes, Kenzie.
Let's get scary.
Sorry, I didn't say action again.
It's okay.
Thank you.
The peanut butter's gone. I ate it already.
He knows you bring him snacks, so I think he's upset when you eat them.
Without him.
Yeah.
It's okay. I have goldfish that I was going to share.
Oh, okay. I watched a really creepy movie over the weekend, but there's no jump scares. Is that something you would watch?
No.
It was so good. If anyone's seen it, it's called Long Legs.
No.
Have you heard about it?
I don't want to.
Okay, so it's about, like, more or less a serial killer, but it's a very, like, kind of a supernaturally feel to it. Nicolas Cage is actually the serial killer. It was creepy, and afterwards, like, after Joe and I just kind of, like, sat. He just, like, I was like, that was good. And he was like, it was good. He was like, it was so creepy. I was like, imagine watching that in the movie theater. And he goes, I don't think I could.
Yeah, no, definitely am not going to watch this.
But it's like about
You have not said anything that has made me be like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
It's like about this FBI agent, and she's the one who's like catching him. So that's what it's about. But okay, if you don't want to hear about this movie, skip ahead like 30 seconds. Okay, everyone who's here, you should still want to hear. So when we were watching it, there were like all these parts where there was like a shadow figure in one of the scenes that had like goat antlers kind of thing. And so I kept looking at it. Horns, that's what it's called.
Goat antlers.
And
so like the devil.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would see it, like, it's in one scene, and I'm looking in the background. I said, Joe, there's a shadow in that seat. And I was like, it's there, look at it. And he didn't look, and then it faded. I was like, now it's gone. And I was like, am I seeing things? No, that was definitely a theme of the movie. It, like, every time this, like, demon thing is happening, you see, if you're looking in the background, you see, like, the horns, and you see, like, the shadow. It's so creepy. And I could not watch the movie without staring in the background the entire time.
One of my classmates, for her presentation that we had to do like earlier in the semester, it was right by Halloween, and she likes all things spooky.
Oh, yes, one of us.
And her project, for her presentation, she used these pictures, and each picture had like a hidden face.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
I got it by the last time, but like the first time, it scared the shit out of me. Like, we were like just looking at it, and then I see it, I'm like, oh my God.
That's how you would be with this, because at first you don't see it.
Yeah.
Like I just like very rarely saw it.
Yeah.
And then I started looking, and by the end it becomes more prominent.
Yeah.
But it was good.
But yeah, no, by the last photo I was like, I know what's coming.
I am prepared.
It's freaky.
It is freaky.
It's very freaky. And that was just a photo.
Oh yeah, that's the whole movie.
So you can imagine that if that's what I do, nothing jumped out.
Yeah, there were no because I like was thinking too. I was like, are there going to be jump scares? Probably not. Maybe I can convince Mackenzie to watch it with no jump scares, but no.
Yeah, well, I jumped at a picture.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, yeah. Trying to think of parts. There's like one part towards the end where you probably would jump, even though it's not scary at all. It's just like you see the thing. Right there. It's good.
I'm glad you enjoyed yourself.
Thank you. I was supposed to go see it at the movies, but it had been like a last minute invite, and then I like wasn't able to make it.
Why is it called Long Legs?
That's what the killer's name is. Like, that's what it kind of, again, skip 15 seconds. He like leaves notes at each crime scene, like kind of like the Zodiac killer in a way, and signs it Long Legs. So it's just like his moniker.
Makes me think of a spider.
Yeah.
Which is why.
His face is so freaking creepy in the movie.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
I know I'm really not doing anything to sell this movie to you. But if anyone hasn't seen it, go watch it. Highly recommend. Very good.
Unless you're me.
Unless you're Mackenzie and don't want to watch any scary movies, then don't go see it.
Nope.
Because it's real scary.
I don't like it.
Okay, should we jump into Michigan?
I would love that.
Arrive at Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore, and there's no missing the namesake sand bluffs that rise 450 feet over Lake Michigan. The dune climb is a time-honored family activity. Is this the one that has the really, really high steep, like, the really, like, high sand dunes? I'll explain in a second. Okay. The dune climb is a time-honored family activity, a steep skate up warm sand that offers a view of Glen Lake and sets climbers up for the slippery skip back up for the slippery skip back down. All around, though, are paved trails, scenic drives and campgrounds for overnight stays, warm inland lakes for swimming, and sandy beaches along the Lake Michigan shoreline. The National Lakeshore also contains the primitive North Manitou Island and more developed South Manitou Island, home to historic farm structures and the 104-foot South Manitou Island Lighthouse, which was built in 1838. It's one of several historic lighthouses in the area. So it's either Michigan, I think it's Michigan. There's a lake. And the dunes down to the lake are super, super, super steep. And there's signs saying, like, if you get stuck at the bottom because it's, like, really hard to climb back up, it's, like, a $3,000 fine because they have to bring in, like, emergency, like, helicopters to get you out.
So you're not allowed to?
You can go down. They're like, you can go down, like, by all means. But if you get stuck down there and you can't come up, just know it's, like, a $3,000 fine.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because one of my coworkers,
I feel like that would have been said.
like, is from Michigan or from one of those places, like one of the cold places up there. And she's talked about it before. And she's like, we climbed down like halfway, but we weren't going to go further because we knew we couldn't get ourselves back up.
I don't know.
Oh, no. Colon, Michigan earned the title Magic Capital of the World because it became a hub for magicians in the 1920s when Harry Blackstone Sr., a renowned magician, made it his summer home. Today, it hosts the annual Magic Get-Together and attracts magicians from around the globe. It's kind of fun.
A magic get-together.
Our friend Chris does card tricks. You should go.
That's what I tell everyone. So now when I say to my friends that he's coming, they're all like, the magic guy?
I was talking to one of your friends at your birthday, and she was like, for a split second, I thought he didn't have another job and that he was like a full-time magician. And I said, oh, no, he's like an aerospace engineer. And she goes, okay, thank God.
Fair. Very fair.
Very fair, yes. Michigan's underwater preserve system protects over 1,000 shipwrecks in the Great Lakes, some dating back to the 1800s. Popular spots include Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, often called the Shipwreck Alley, which features glass-bottom boat tours. That's really cool. Also, there's the Michigan Triangle here. I covered it. Lake Michigan. Yeah. I assume it's in the same area because we talked about shipwreck. Traverse City grows approximately 250 million pounds of tart cherries annually. The National Cherry Festival, held every July, includes pie eating contests, cherry pit spitting, and even a cherry-themed air show. Do you like cherries?
Mm-mm.
Why? Because of the pits?
I just don't like the way it tastes.
Oh. Michigan boasts over 3,200 miles of freshwater coastline along the Great Lakes, more than any other state in the U.S. It's also home to 11,000 inland lakes and over 36,000 miles of rivers and streams, making it a water lover's paradise. Bet that water is freezing, though.
Probably.
The J.W. Westcott II.
The second. I'm keeping that in there.
Based in Detroit, delivers mail to ships navigating the Detroit River. The boat has its own zip code, 48222, and has been in operation since 1948, ensuring mail reaches sailors while at sea. That's actually really cool. Michigan's Highway Department installed the first roadside picnic table in 1929 along M115, recognizing the need for rest stops as cars became more popular. These tables paved the way for modern highway rest areas. Frankenmuth's Zender's Splash Village has an indoor wave pool covering over 50,000 square feet. Visitors can experience 6-foot waves, water slides, and a lazy river, all in a Bavarian-themed setting. That's such an interesting thing. Like, Bavarian-themed setting.
I don't know what that means.
Bavaria? That's all I got.
You also don't know what it means.
Nope. Mackinac Island.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, are you looking it up?
Yes. Relating to the southern German state of
Bavaria. Right. But, like, what does Bavaria themed mean? Like, trees that are in Bavaria?
German.
You know what would be really helpful? Probably searching the name of the village.
It's like a German place.
Okay.
Like where they wear the lederhosen or whatever.
Lederhosen.
Whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it looks like an old-timey Germantown.
That
that's
sounds
what that
really
means.
cute, actually.
Yeah.
Mackinac Island, a car-free retreat in Lake Huron, is home to over 14 fudge shops. The tradition dates back to the late 1800s, when fudge making became a tourist attraction. Visitors are called fudgies, and the sweet treats aroma fills the island streets.
Ooh.
When
everything constantly smells like chocolate.
When Joe and I were doing our long-ass trip from Arkansas, we passed through Uranus, and they had a fudge shop. So we got fudge from Uranus.
I don't let my kids say Uranus. It's Uranus.
Oh, yeah, no, they really played on Uranus here
That's fine.
at this little place in some random one of those Midwest states.
There's a handful of them.
We were on the road for 24 hours. I don't remember where we stopped.
You just know it was called Uranus.
Yep. Isle Royale National Park in Lake Superior is one of the least visited national parks due to its remote location. Its delicate balance between wolves and moose, studied by scientists for decades, is a rare natural phenomenon. The park is accessible only by ferry or seaplane. My friend, you know her, Addison, her family has like a tiny little house up in like Michigan or Wisconsin or something, and the only way to get there is either you take a ferry or you take one of those teeny little planes.
That's kind of cool.
And at one time, the plane actually crashed and killed everyone on board. So Addison's like, nope, I'm just going to take the ferry from now on.
That's sad.
I know. That's actually, there's a place in Virginia like that, or Maryland. It's, you have to take either a seaplane or a ferry to get to like this teeny little island somewhere around here. And it's like all 1800s based. So everything's back from that time. So you kind of just walk through. It's like a day trip kind of thing.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Joe was like, I already looked to see if there were hotels. They don't have any hotels on this teeny little island.
That makes sense.
I was like, that makes sense. He's
Yeah.
like, there are some bed and breakfasts. And I was like,
That's
an 1800 bed and breakfast? Okay.
it's kind of a hotel.
Kind of, yeah. Detroit pharmacist James Verner created Verner's ginger ale in 1866 while trying to develop a stomach tonic. After leaving the formula in an oak barrel for 4 years, he discovered it had developed a unique smooth taste, becoming America's first soda pop. Johnny Inkslinger, a mythological Michigan lumberjack, supposedly invented the ink pen to streamline record keeping in the logging camps. His exaggerated tales include using a horse instead of
Hose.
using a hose instead of a pen to write logs. Fayette History State Park preserves the remnants of Fayette, a once thriving 19th century iron smelting town in the Upper Peninsula. When the iron industry declined, the town was abandoned and later restored as a living history site.
It sounds kind of like what you were just talking about.
Yeah, a little bit. Upper Peninsula residents known as Yoopers?
I thought Yopper.
Yoppers.
But Youper, like, is it? I don't know.
I don't know. If you're an Upper Peninsulan let us know. So they speak a unique dialect influenced by Finnish, Swedish, and other Scandinavian languages. Phrases like eh and words such as
I
pank,
think it's A. Like
Canada.
not eh.
Phrases like eh and words such as pank to put something in place reflect their rich cultural heritage. I should know that because I am part Scandinavian. Michigan's Great Lakes are a treasure trove of shipwrecks, well preserved due to the cold fresh water. Popular wrecks include the Cedarville, a freighter in the Straits of Mackinac, and Sandusky. Is it schooner or schooner?
I think it's Schooner.
I can never remember. A schooner in Lake Michigan dating back to 1856. This is still a place on my list that I have not been to yet.
Like Michigan?
As
Or
a
just
state.
Michigan
in general.
general.
Have you been to Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
We have family that lives
I
there.
think I did know that. But yeah, seems like a nice place.
Yeah, Michigan.
Michigan.
Good job. So, Lauren, what spooky tea you pouring?
It is a Sunday, so you can just imagine what happened with Mackenzie yesterday. Hence
It's not always
today.
going to be like this, guys.
It's the holidays.
It's the party season.
It's the holiday season.
Holiday season.
Okay, I got a story for you.
I hope so. That'd
Yeah.
be awkward.
That would be really awkward. Hi, just tell me something. It was a cold October night, and a group of teenagers were hanging out at the famous Hell's Bridge in Algoma Township. They were all sitting
You
there.
think Hell's Bridge leads to hell?
No, not in this case. Unfortunately. They were all sitting there shivering, just waiting for something to happen. Glancing a quick look at their phones, they noticed that it was just about midnight. Rumor goes that on this bridge, midnight is the witching hour and the hour when the devil can be heard laughing.
Ooh.
Quietly, they waited, straining their ears to hear any sound in the darkness around them.
Is this where didn't what's their names from BuzzFeed Unsolved?
Oh, no.
This-
That's Goatman's Bridge.
Oh,
or-
okay.
It's not this one.
Okay.
That one's like a big old bridge. This one's not that at all.
Okay.
Suddenly, one of the friends grabs another and asks in a frightened whisper, "Did you hear that?"
Mm.
"I heard someone laughing, and I think I heard a kid cry," another quietly mentioned. They kept their eyes strained, waiting for another sound. This time, the noise came from the woods surrounding them. The kids didn't wait long enough to figure out what it was. They all fled the bridge, got into their cars, and left the devil and his laughter behind. The teens pulled
Smart.
The teens pull into an all-night Denny's where they talk about what they heard and start posting on social media that they heard the devil laughing and the kids crying at Hell's Bridge. With that, the legend continues.
When was this? Obviously, it had to be recent if they're texting.
Just a time.
Yeah.
Just a story. So this legend started back in the 1800s. So,
Like all good legends.
all good legends. This particular village was suffering. Their kids were disappearing into the woods, never to return home. The town took action and organized a search party to go into the woods and look for the missing children. But the families didn't want to leave their other children alone, so they asked an elderly preacher to watch them, a kind Mr. Frisk. Frisk, we're going to say Frisk.
Probably Frisk would be good, especially since he's a priest.
Oh, jeez. Before the searching families left, they saw Mr. Frisk tying the children together around the waists with a rope. He said he didn't want any more kids wandering off and getting lost. The families understood and headed off in search of the other missing children. Then Mr. Frisk headed off into the woods with the children following right behind him.
Why?
After a bit, the children started to complain about all of the walking, asking Mr. Frisk if they could stop.
Why would you go into the woods that children are disappearing from? That seems like a dumb
I think we
idea.
will see in our legend.
That's so stupid.
He didn't stop until they approached a bridge. As they were approaching, the children started to notice a rotting smell, which they complained to Mr. Frisk about. In reply, Frisk uncovered a pile of leaves and branches and revealed the source of the smell. It was the bodies of the other missing children.
It was the Frisk guy, wasn't it?
The children with Frisk started to scream and yell, but Mr. Frisk had prepared for this. He had taken the kids in the opposite direction of the search party so their screams could not be heard by their families. Then one by one, he killed the children, dumping their bodies into the stream below. Later, the search party returned and realized that Frisk and the other children were missing, so they immediately launched another search, heading back into the woods. They made their way to the bridge where they came upon a gruesome sight. The bodies of the missing children were in the waters below. They looked around frantically for Mr. Frisk, but he was gone. That is, until one man noticed footprints in the mud heading deeper into the forest. A group of men followed the footprints, which led them right to Mr. Frisk, who was covered in blood. They dragged him back to the rest of the group, yelling at him, accusing him of the murders. Mr. Frisk simply stated that the devil had coaxed him into the killings. The search party grabbed the rope that Frisk had used to tie the kids with and used it to hang him near the bridge. As he was secured at the top, it is said that the water in the river swelled and consumed Mr. Frisk. The rope snapped and he fell into the river, never to be seen or found again.
So we don't know if he died.
Don't know where he is.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the legend of Frisk, or of Hell's Bridge.
Did you go onto our newspaper thingy and see if something like that actually happened then?
I did not, but other people have done work for us.
Okay.
So this popular bridge is just a small metal bridge in Algoma Township, crossing what many say is the Rogue River, but is actually Cedar Creek. And it's like just a metal bridge, like maybe 6 feet, 10 feet, not very long, kind of near the water. Looks like if you stand on it, you're gonna fall in. Like, it's not a very secure looking bridge.
Lovely.
So rumors say that if you cross the bridge and it's only big enough, really, truly, for one person to walk across. You can't have two people walking next to each other.
It's a walking bridge. It's not a driving bridge.
Oh, yeah. No cars could fit on this thing. So
Okay.
it's just a walking bridge, which is why when you brought up BuzzFeed Unsolved, I was like, no.
Okay.
This one is like small and like dinky compared to that one. So rumors say that if you cross the bridge at night, you can hear the voices and screams of the children who died there and the laugh of the devil. People have reported hearing whispers and footsteps, even when no one is around. People have reported hearing their names being called from the depths of the woods.
Ugh.
There's also a general sense of dread and unease when nearing and approaching the bridge.
The name doesn't help.
Right. So at that part where I had people like hearing their names called, if Joe had been home today, I was going to have him call your name. Okay.
I'm laughing on the inside.
I can tell. People have described a sense of discomfort and a feeling that they aren't alone. Visitors also report a feeling of being watched while crossing the bridge or even just standing near. Sometimes you may even be greeted by a black figure with glowing eyes.
No, thank you.
Some people who have visited claim that unseen hands have tried to pull them into the water.
Absolutely not.
Because you can tube on this water.
Mm-hmm.
And so people will tube and they'll say that as they're going near the bridge, they feel what feels like hands grabbing their ankles.
That's like my deep-seated fear.
What, something pulling you into the water?
No, something grabbing my ankle.
Oh, yeah.
Like I don't have my feet on below my bed ever.
I don't either. And it helps with us. Like, we have so much stuff under our bed that I know there's nothing hiding under the bed that could grab my ankles.
Nope.
Ghostly apparitions have been seen. There have been claims of people seeing the figure of a woman or a child wandering near the bridge at night. Some have reported seeing strange lights and shadows near the bridge. One visitor claimed that they saw mysterious lights moving around, and when they tried to approach them, the lights vanished without a trace.
Why would you approach?
Why the hell would you approach it?
That sounds so dumb.
Some believe that these lights are the spirits of those who had died in the area. Cars that are driving on roads near the bridge have experienced car trouble and electrical malfunctions. Vehicles have stalled, headlights flicker, cars die, and other electrical devices have been affected as well. And because, of course, the bridge is said to be associated with satanic rituals and occult practices,
I mean,
it's called Hell's Bridge. What else would you expect? And it said the devil hangs around here. So, like, what are you going to do?
right.
Visitors have found sometimes we really need a camera to catch these beautiful, almost sneeze faces.
Okay. They went away.
Visitors have found strange symbols and markings on trees and rocks in the area. Scores of paranormal teens have come to the bridge to look into this legend, with many of them claiming that they have indeed had experiences here. Those who have say it is rampant with paranormal activity, and they were able to hear the screams and whimpers of the murdered children. Other groups have said that there is nothing here. Some even argue that the bridge is further down than many think and isn't even the one that's in most of the photographs. So, one guy talked about a time when he went with a couple of friends. He reported hearing laughter coming from the woods right at midnight. They also heard what sounded like children faintly screaming and whimpering.
Ugh.
He then said, quote, "Me and the guy next to me looked down at the water and saw a kid floating there. That's when we got the bleep, his words, not mine, off the bridge. The second party of people left while me, my two friends, and my brother stayed back. I got my brother to come to the middle of the bridge with me to see if we could hear anything else before we left. I pointed to the spot where the other guy and I saw the kid. When we both looked, we saw two kids with rope around them floating in the water. We hauled ass out of the woods." And that makes me think too, though. Okay, I know this place is haunted. I know the legends. If I see that, I think I still maybe would like call the cops or something.
But if you knew it was a ghost,
But how do you know it's a ghost?
maybe it looked ghostly.
Maybe if it is transparent, then yes, I wouldn't call the cops. But if you like think it's a legit kid, like,
I did have that thought initially. I'm like, how detailed was this ghost kid? that
right.
You just are like ignoring the fact that there's a child in the water.
Right.
Like, this better look like a real fucking ghost for you to be like, oh yeah, that's
I'm just going to leave that there and I'm going to leave myself.
right.
Right. Another person went and shared their experience. All was calm at the bridge until nightfall. The person and their friend both started to sense a weird feeling on the side of the bridge opposite a big tree. They started their digital recorder and sat down, just talking and asking random questions, hoping to catch something ghostly on their recorder. One friend, whose back was facing the tree.
No.
That's why both of us have our backs to things. Felt a cold sensation down her back. The other friend then started to get chills.
Was it the tree?
It wasn't against the tree.
Oh.
Her back was just open and the tree was behind her. We don't like things behind us that we don't know.
I'm imagining here's a movie, and in one of the scenes, the girl is like, "Oh, I just felt a chill," and she's sitting on like an ice, like her back is like touching like this like ice sculpture. So that's why I wanted to know if it was the tree.
No. They're on the opposite side of the bridge
Got it.
from the tree.
Got it.
So her back is facing the tree, not touching it, and she felt a cold sensation. The other friend then started to get chills. They felt weird and started to feel as if they were being watched. This is when they heard what sounded like people walking down the path towards them. They thought it was other investigators, but no one ever appeared. That was the final straw. They freaked out and they left. When they returned home, they played the recordings from the digital recorder. They heard a lot of unexplained noises, including voices, a child crying, a woman singing, and a growl. One friend also found bruises on their upper arm that they said looked like they were made from fingers and from being grabbed from behind. There was also a bruise in the middle of their lower arm. And before you say anything, this person is not like you. They do not bruise easily, and they do not get random bruises. So they knew that those bruises hadn't been there before.
Mm-hmm.
So this may be a legend, but it may be based in some fact.
Okay.
So the U.S. Census indeed had a Frisk family in the Algoma area, but they didn't show up until 1910, which isn't the 1800s like the legend says.
Right.
Also, there was no one in the family by the name of Elias Frisk, which is the name of
the priest.
There is also a Frisk Road northwest in the area.
Okay.
So why would you, though, name it after a murderer? The legend also refers
Fair.
to the Rogue River, but this bridge crosses over the Cedar Creek. So
it might not even be the right bridge.
Correct. So who knows? But it's an interesting legend. So to end this, I have a little story from ChatGPT.
Fuck you.
Because I know how much you love them.
Closing my eyes.
So I asked it to tell me a first-person point of view story about Hell's Bridge. The air was thick with the smell of wet earth and decaying leaves as I approached Hell's Bridge. My friend had dared me to come here like they had dared everyone else, but something about the place made my skin crawl even before I stepped onto the bridge. It wasn't the stories I had heard of the bridge being haunted, of the people who disappeared nearby, but the strange oppressive silence that wrapped itself around me. I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself it was just nerves. It was just a bridge after all. But the deeper I ventured into the woods, the more I felt the weight of something watching, waiting. The trees seemed to bend closer, their branches twisting like skeletal hands reaching for me. I could barely make out the faint glow of moonlight through the dense canopy above. As I finally saw it, Hell's Bridge, it didn't look like much. Just a dilapidated structure with rotting wood half sunken into the ground. The railing was missing in spots, and the stones beneath were slick with moss, making each step treacherous. But as I stood there just beyond the bridge's edge, a strange chill ran up my spine. The kind of cold that isn't from the air, but from something deeper, like a part of me was freezing from the inside out.
Oof.
I tried to laugh it off, to make a joke to myself, but the sound of my voice felt wrong.
Ew.
Hollow, like it didn't belong here.
Mm.
I hesitated, my heart pounding. Then from somewhere deep in the woods, a sound reached my ears. A soft scraping noise, like
No.
something dragging itself upon the earth.
Oh.
I spun around, but saw nothing. The shadows danced, flickered, and then the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. There was something in the air now, something alive.
Mm.
I slowly stepped on...
you.
Something else alive. I slowly stepped onto the bridge. The boards creaked under my feet, but there was something more. A whisper. At first, I thought it was just the wind, but the closer I got to the middle, the louder it became.
That's
The
terrible.
whispering. It was soft, almost like a chant, but I couldn't make out the words. I stood still, frozen, listening. I felt my stomach tighten, a cold sweat breaking out across my forehead. Suddenly, I heard it clearly. Leave. I gasped and whirled around, but there was no one there. My breath quickened. There was no one here, right? The trees, the dark shadows, they seemed to be closing in. The air was suffocating, thick with a presence that I couldn't explain. I had to leave. I had to get off this bridge.
Well, yeah, that's what they told you to do.
But then something caught my eye. Something in
No.
the water beneath. A figure, barely visible but unmistakable. Pale, with matted hair, its face obscured, but its
Ew.
eyes.
Ew, ew, ew,
Its
ew, ew.
eyes. Those eyes stared up at me from the dark waters. I staggered backward, my heart racing. I couldn't tear my eyes away, even as the figure seemed to drift closer to the surface. The whisper came again, this time louder. Leave now or join us.
Oh!
I ran. My footsteps pounded the wooden planks, and the bridge seemed to groan in protest, as if it didn't want me to leave. I heard the sound of something following me. Something inhuman, dragging itself just behind. Close enough that I could almost feel its breath on my neck. The darkness seemed to swallow me whole as I sprinted through the woods, my heart beating in my throat. When I finally broke through to the clearing, the woods were silent again. The bridge was no longer in sight, but I knew I'd never forget the feeling, the cold, the whispers, and the eyes beneath the water.
Mm-mm.
Hell's Bridge had let me go, but I wasn't sure if I'd escaped or if it was just waiting for me to come back.
Ew.
So, nice and short, but there's Hell's Bridge in Michigan. And it looks creepy too, because I was looking at pictures of it, obviously, potentially the right bridge, we don't know. But if you are going to the one that's pictured, you have to walk through the woods and like a wood path to get there. That's why it's not like cars can drive on it, because it's like a footpath. But even the woods look creepy. And the trees kind of do like look like they kind of close in on you.
Mm.
It's creepy. And then the bridge is looking like if you step on it, you're going to fall into the water below. It's not a great place. I don't think I'd recommend it.
Well,
And a lot of things I read online, there was one person who wrote like a story about it. So of course I read the story. And they were like, in order to really like embrace the fear of this bridge, you should only come like with one other person or come alone. And I'm like, are you a serial killer telling people to come to this bridge alone? That's something a serial killer says. Come alone. Don't bring any friends with you. Don't tell anyone where you are.
that really does sound like someone is.
I know. And I was like, don't take this advice.
Don't listen to this person. Always
But-
bring a witness.
Always. But yeah, Hell's Bridge.
That would be crazy if that story was real.
I know. It would be. But I mean, it is interesting, though, that like the name matches a name from the census from like 1910. I know it's very different from the 1800s, but I mean, you could still say the 1800s and be like 1899. It would only be 11-year difference. So, you know, because you and I were born at the end of the 1900s.
Shut up.
See how gross that sounds? So it really could be the same thing.
That was rude.
I know. I know. But we're both 30. You dropped it yesterday and couldn't get back up. So
Way to put my shit on blast, Lauren.
I had to. It's too fun.
It just went down and wasn't going to get back up.
That's so funny. I mean, you saw me struggling just to get up from the ground here when I had to get up for things.
Yeah.
So, it's all downhill from here.
Well, it didn't help that I was insanely intoxicated.
No.
I
No, that doesn't help ever.
think that also had a little something to do with
Maybe
it.
just a little bit.
Makes balance difficult.
Were you wearing heels?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. There
Sure
you go.
was.
There you go.
Always.
I know. I don't know how you do it. So yeah, Hillsbridge. All right, Mackenzie. What stories do you have for us from Michigan?
So you know how much I love a good 2-for-1 special,
Of course I do.
and this fits that perfectly. Although
Ooh.
the second part, unfortunately, there's not quite as many experiences
Okay.
as I was hoping to find.
Okay.
But it's still 2-for-1.
Okay.
In today's episode, we will explore one of Detroit's most chilling unsolved murders, a story blending mysticism, ambition, and tragedy. This is the tale of Benny
Evangelist?
Yes, but with an A at the end.
Evangelista?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's Italian.
Oh. Evangelista.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is he evangelist? Like an evangelist?
No, he's Catholic.
Oh. That is misleading.
I don't even know if evangelicism was a thing at this time. I don't know when that branch became a part of our
No
society.
idea.
Anyway,
When is this time? Did you say yet?
not yet.
Oh, okay.
This is okay. I'm just gonna leave all that in. I liked how you said Evangelista.
Yeah.
Evangelista. A spiritual healer whose life ended in a scene straight out of a nightmare. Who was Benny?
Evangelista.
Good job.
Thanks.
What led to the shocking, brutal murder of him and his family? And why does the case still haunt Michigan nearly a century later? Before he became a spiritual leader of Detroit's immigrant community, Benny
Evangelista.
was a young man growing up in Naples, Italy. Born in the late 19th century, Benny grew up surrounded by the superstitions, folk magic, and religious fervor that were part of everyday life in rural Italy. Like many of his contemporaries, Benny's life in Naples was shaped by poverty and limited opportunities. Italy was in the midst of political and economic upheaval, and for a young man like Benny, the dream of better life lay across the Atlantic. In the early 1900s, Benny joined the wave of Italian immigrants seeking a new start in America. He first settled in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where he worked as a carpenter. But even then, Benny's life seemed marked by the mystical. It was in Philadelphia that he reportedly began experiencing visions, profound spiritual experiences that he believed were messages from a divine source.
Good.
Benny wasn't shy about his revelations. He began telling others about his encounters with celestial beings and his belief that he was chosen to share their messages. When Evangelista started receiving visions from God, and it was these visions that spurred his 4-volume book project he called The Oldest History of the World. In this book, he declared himself a divine prophet, spiritual leader, and mystical healer. With all these beliefs in mind, in the basement of his house, Evangelista constructed an apparatus that included almost a dozen wax figures depicting various celestial planets and a huge eye that was electrically lit up from the inside. The apparatus...
It sounds weird, but I also kind of want to see it.
It looks weird.
I mean, it's a big eye lit up from the inside.
Well, in the picture, I don't think you can see the eye, but you can see the apparatus. This apparatus served as an altar for
Evangelista?
Thank you. Healings. He would charge $10 for those, which in the early 1900s is a lot of money.
Yeah.
This practice might have earned him a good sum of money, but it also gave him a few enemies. But we'll get back to that in a minute. Benny's relationship with his brother, Antonio Evangelista, was a complicated one. Tensions escalated when Benny began using their shared home as a spiritual center, hosting rituals and meetings that Antonio viewed as disruptive and unorthodox. The rift between the brothers eventually became irreparable. Antonio sent Benny away to work for a railroad construction crew in York, Pennsylvania. Some reports suggest Antonio believed Benny's mystical practices bordered on heresy?
Heresy?
Something like that.
Yeah.
While others imply financial disputes may have played a role. Aurelius Angelino, became very close with Benny, and unlike Antonio, Aurelius never thought ill of Benny's growing interest in the occult and his visions, mostly because he was also heavily interested in some darker mystical practices. But this connection would come to an end in a much more brutal way than the parting between Benny and Antonio. In 1919, Aurelius snapped, attacking his family with an axe and killing his twin sons in the process.
Oh.
He was captured and sent to live out the rest of his days in the Fairview State Hospital for the criminally insane. But Benny was deeply disturbed by what happened, and in order to put distance between himself and the axe murderer, he moved to Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
Detroit was booming, fueled by the rise of the automobile industry. The city's population had exploded, and its streets were a mix of wealth, ambition, and desperation. For Benny, Detroit offered not only a chance to improve his material life, but also a larger stage for his spiritual work. In Detroit, Benny set up not only a home, but also a spiritual center, a space where he could heal, guide, and preach. His home became a strange and fascinating hub for the city's Italian immigrant community. Benny lived with his wife, Santina, and their 4 children. By all accounts, the family led a modest life. Santina was a devoted mother focused on raising their children, while Benny balanced his day job with his growing role as a spiritual leader. But behind closed doors, Benny's life took on an aura of mystery. His home was filled with altars, candles, and sacred objects, symbols of his mystical practice. Benny conducted healing rituals and spiritual ceremonies that blended Christian imagery and with esoteric elements. Benny would reportedly use prayers, potions, and even trances to connect with the spiritual realms. And Benny was not cheap, but he was also not overly successful, and those who sought out his services later complained that nothing was cured, nothing was solved, and he was just a scam artist.
Oh, no.
That is, if anyone from the predominantly Italian Catholic community was even willing to admit they spoke to the self-proclaimed healer.
Mm-hmm.
After moving the family to their home on the corner of St. Aubin Street, he converted the basement of the house to an almost makeshift worship space filled with tables, altars, bottles, ingredients, knives, and jars, among other paraphernalia. The space, though, was not pleasant. It was said that Evangelista conducted much darker business in his lair, including animal sacrifices, intense chanting, and creating bizarre depictions of gods handcrafted by the healer himself. Also stacked around the space were the copies of the book he wrote, The Oldest History of the World Discovered by Occult Science in Detroit, Michigan. It's the whole name.
Okay.
The first in a planned 4-volume series documenting what Benny said was told to him straight from God. Walking past the house, it was possible to see into the basement, and if it was at just the right angle, you might be able to catch a glimpse of the Great Celestial Planet Exhibition. The large collection of human figures and planets made from papier-mâché, wire, wax, and wood that hung from the basement ceiling surrounded by the handmade eye that could light up.
That sounds so creepy.
100%. One did not have to hope for a peek at the basement, though. For the price of 5 whole cents, Benny would take anyone down for a tour of his ritual space.
What a deal.
Right. While many saw Benny as a beacon of hope, others were more skeptical. Some accused him of being a charlatan, exploiting the vulnerable for profit. Others whispered darker rumors that Benny dabbled in black magic or conducted rituals bordering on occultism. Yet, Benny's following grew. People desperate for answers and relief flocked to him, leaving behind donations as tokens of gratitude. For many, Benny was a man touched by the divine. For others, he was a man playing with fire. The morning of July 3rd, 1929 began like any other, until a business associate arrived at Benny's house. What he found inside would haunt him forever. Benny
Evangelista
was seated at his desk. His arms rested on the table, hands folded neatly, but his head was missing. It lay on the floor beside him, staring blankly at the ceiling. The room bore signs of a ritual. Candles, papers, and other items were scattered as if part of some dark ceremony. Upstairs, the scene grew even more horrifying. Benny's wife, Santina, and their 4 children, ranging in age from 8 months to 8 years old, were found in their bedrooms.
No.
Mrs. Evangelista was found dead in her bed with her youngest child. Her head had been bashed in, and the 1-year-old's skull was crushed. The 3 other children were found massacred in the room across the hall. The sheer violence of the crime shocked even seasoned police officers. News of the Evangelista's murders spread like wildfire. Newspapers sensationalized the story, playing up Benny's mysticism and hinting at dark rituals. To the public, the crime felt like something out of a Gothic novel, a mix of supernatural and the grotesque.
Oh my gosh.
The police investigation began with a swirl of leads, rumors, and speculations. Detectives initially focused on Benny's spiritual practices, as his unusual lifestyle seemed to provide the most obvious motive. His followers became immediate persons of interest. Police questioned whether someone had grown disillusioned with Benny's teachings or rituals, or perhaps resented the money that they had given him.
Did we have a lot of followers? Like, are there a lot of followers with him?
I think so. The other thing, too, is not everyone was willing to admit that they did it. Like,
'Cause
that
it's
they went
like,
to him.
if they're thinking it's one of the followers, it's like, okay, are we looking into 5 people or like 500 people kind of thing?
Yeah, like there was, when some sources, like the way that they report on it, said, like, also call him like a cult leader. So I do think he had followers, but I don't think anyone at the time wanted to even admit that.
Yeah.
The gruesome nature of the crime scene raised the other unsettling questions. Was the family murdered as part of a ritualistic killing, or was the scene staged to make it appear that way? Investigators also examined Benny's financial dealings. His spiritual practices were profitable, some might say too profitable. Benny often charged clients for his services, leading to resentment among those who saw him as a fraud. Could someone have acted out of revenge over what they considered a scam? Very slowly, pieces started to fill in the puzzle, but the picture was not made any clearer. When police spoke to Benny's doctor, it only confirmed what was already known, that he was a religious fanatic. Benny's lawyer told police he was recently involved in several lawsuits stemming from his real estate business, but they were all very minor cases, nothing that would warrant murder. Without an obvious suspect, they began to look outward. There was a client of Benny's that police did become curious about. On the night before the bodies were found, a man named Umberto Tessio visited Evangelista at his home in order to make a final payment on a house that Benny sold to him. He visited the home accompanied by his friend Angelo DePoli, and after leaving the Evangelista home, both men went out for some drinks.
So Benny is a healer and a real estate agent.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
That's his day job.
Oh, yeah.
The police brought Umberto in for questioning based on the fact, supposedly, I only saw this in one place,
Okay.
but I felt like it should be shared. Based on the fact that an axe, a knife, and freshly cleaned boots were found behind a barn on the boarding house where he lived. There were also the fact that Umberto supposedly stabbed his brother-in-law to death 3 months earlier.
Oh, God. Why is
I'm-
he not in jail for that then?
That's what my question was. That's why I said supposedly.
Okay.
But with no real evidence and no confession, Umberto was let go.
Oh, okay.
The broader climate of Detroit in 1929 added complexity to the case. Organized crime was rampant, fueled by prohibition. And I don't remember when the stock market crashed, but I know it was this year.
Was it in like the 20s? No. Yeah.
It was in 1929.
Yeah. Okay.
I just don't remember when.
Oh, what month-wise? Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know if it was like beginning or end. But
Mm-hmm.
So he's either in the middle of the Great Depression or he just missed it.
Oh, how convenient.
Right. Benny's Italian heritage placed him in proximity to a world where family feuds and criminal rivalries often ended in violence. Police explored whether Benny had crossed paths with the mafia or other criminal groups. In searching the house, police did find a 6-month-old letter that simply stated, "This is your last chance."
Oh, jeez.
But from 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I was like, way to take your time acting that out.
Yeah, right. They didn't want to strike too soon or you'd be like, expecting it.
I guess.
Got to keep them on their toes.
With this letter came a new theory. Perhaps the Evangelista family were all victims of the criminal group known as the Black Hand that regularly preyed on Italian immigrants. The gruesome and extremes killings fit the bill of an organized crime hit, but the problem was that by the time this letter would have been sent, the Black Hand had already moved on to bigger people and ploys, not even operating under that name, and highly unlikely to target a man and his family for some sort of singular low-level disagreement.
Okay.
So, like, by the time that his murder happened, it was like mafia.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. The brothers' estrangement added another layer of complexity to Benny's life. After his murder, investigators considered Antonio a potential suspect, though no evidence ever linked him to the crime. I don't really think he was in the same state.
Oh, yeah.
Still, the strained relationship fueled speculation about whether family discord played a role in Benny's tragic end. Supposedly, in 1923, 6 years before the slaughter of the Evangelista family, Angelino, his friend that went cuckoo and killed his family, supposedly he escaped from the hospital and was never seen again.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good.
So is it possible that over the course of 6 years, Angelino was able to track down his former friend multiple states away, then brutally murder him and his family just like he had done to his own, before once again slipping away and disappearing into the darkness?
It's not far-fetched.
It's not, if he actually did escape.
Right.
Because one, like, the story is the same where he killed his family, but the place he went to, I saw 2 different names.
Okay.
But it was, both were for the criminally insane.
Maybe it had a name change at some point. Rebranded itself.
I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
If it was Angelino, the Evangelista family may not have been his only target. 2 weeks prior to their killings, another brutal murder took place just under 9 miles from Detroit in River Rouge, Michigan, where the bodies of Mrs. Henry Siponiski and her 3 children were also found horribly mutilated. Supposedly, like, right before and, like, a little bit after, too, there was a bunch of, like, axe murders in the area that were never solved.
Just casual axe murders in the neighborhood. Cool.
Yeah. So, not sure if it was ever connected, like if they ever were like, yeah, these are connected, or if it was just...
Jeez.
Yeah. Another theory involved personal vendettas. Benny's charismatic presence and growing influence may have made him enemies. Detectives considered whether the murders stemmed from jealousy or anger within Detroit's spiritualist community. Despite pursuing these leads, the investigation hit roadblocks. Forensics in 1929 was primitive by modern standards. They did have one fingerprint, bloody fingerprint on the door handle.
Okay. My favorite thing is still, like, investigations back then. Look at all this blood. Clean it up.
Yeah. And I don't know when fingerprinting became like a big thing.
I don't know either.
And so I don't know if they would have thought to
preserve
the fingerprint.
Right.
That kind of thing. Fingerprints, blood analysis, and other scientific tools were limited, and no witnesses came forward to provide a breakthrough. The sheer brutality of the crime, especially the murder of children, suggested an intense personal rage.
Mm-hmm.
Yet no definitive suspects were identified. As the months turned into years, the case went cold. It's kind of funny. In March of 1930, a newspaper headline printed a misleading story claiming that a witness to the crime had been found. Although they were technically right, it would not help shed any light on the crime. At some point during the killings, the family dog escaped the house, and nearly a year later, a woman found a stray dog, and upon reading the tags, discovered it once belonged to the Evangelista family.
I was just about to ask, is it like a dog or an animal or something?
He adopted the dog, and the newspapers dubbed the pup the only witness to the horror.
There was a bird outside that saw everything that happened. That's so stupid.
So several years ago, the Evangelista home on St. Auburn Street was demolished, and all that remains now is grown over empty lot that no one has built anything on since.
And we've never figured it out?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
There have been rumors that the site is haunted,
mm-hmm.
and others have claimed to have seen a headless man walking around the lot.
Oh my God.
Others have reported hearing disembodied screams. The Evangelista murders remain unsolved to this day. In conclusion, nearly a century later, the murder of Benny Evangelista and his family remains unsolved. Their deaths left a lasting scar on Detroit's history, a chilling reminder of how little we sometimes understand about the people around us. The case raises haunting questions. Was Benny's murder truly linked to his spiritual practices, or was he simply a victim of greed, jealousy, or madness? The lack of answers only fueled speculation, making Benny Evangelista a figure shrouded in mystery. Today, his story lives on as a blend of true crime and folklore. Benny's mysticism, his gruesome death, and the eerie sense of unfinished business continue to fascinate. It's a tale that reminds us of the thin line between belief and fear, ambition and danger. And that is the murder of the Evangelista family.
Wow.
And their haunting street.
What do you think happened? Do you think it was family? Do you think it was that other guy who had already killed his family? Do you think it was just a random person, a follower?
I think it would have been really difficult in the 1920s I don't think it would have been difficult for him to escape.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been difficult for him to find him again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, there was no bad blood between them.
Right.
Like, they didn't have issues. It's just he went cuckoo.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like, too, with him not being in a sound state of mind, how would he make it from Pennsylvania all the way over to Michigan?
That's true.
In 1929.
I feel like sometimes, well, no, probably if a crime like that happened today, we'd probably figure it out. It might take a couple years, but we'd probably figure it out.
I think with all the things that we have available to us, yeah.
Especially if it can, like a fingerprint.
Like, I think it was so much easier to get away with a whole lot of shit because there was no really real way to track someone.
Right.
And so it's not surprising to me that this was unsolved. Especially if, like, they don't do fingerprints. So, like,
right.
And that who's to say that person would even be in the system?
Yeah.
When they didn't even really have a system yet.
Right.
So I think from what I read, where it was mentioned that afterwards there was there was a few of these, like, axe murders.
It's just so wild. Like, here's a couple axe murderers.
Yeah, right. I didn't look super into it, so I don't know if it was ever determined if they were connected or not.
Mm-hmm.
But my thinking is if all those things did happen, then maybe it was like one person who was just on a rampage of
Right.
killing people with an axe.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for me to say like revenge or jealousy or whatever, because why then kill the rest of his family in the brutal way that they did?
Right.
You know?
Like, especially the kids, like an 18-month-old or however old.
Right. Like it was a little baby.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that, like I don't know, there's a level of rage to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's either you've lost it. If this, actually, you know what? Hold on.
And it's like very personal too. Like, that's one of those attacks where it's like you were saying, kind of like a passion attack where it's like, you know, the person.
Yeah. Okay. So the stock market crashed in October of 1929. Because I was going to say, if it happened earlier in the year and Benny was still making this money while everyone was like,
then people would be pissed.
yeah, then I'm like, okay, I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
But the stock market hadn't crashed yet. Or he summoned some demon with his
Ooh, that one's more fun.
Occult practices.
His light up eye.
Yeah, because he was, equal opportunity. He would do, what did it say? There was one where it was like he would do cures and curses.
Oh.
So
maybe his cures were done with dark magic.
Yeah. Maybe he healed someone and whatever he used turned them crazy and came back and something like that. So maybe it did have to do with his rituals in some way or another, but more magical than anything else.
Interesting.
Unless he gave someone like really, really bad advice or something like that. And then.
Do you think he gave people, well, no. I was going to say, like, did he give people like financial advice and then those people lost all of their money?
I don't know. It seemed more of like healing.
Right.
And less so advice.
Yeah.
Like I said, cures and curses.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not 100% sure. So I tried to like imagine, I'm like, is there a possibility that he could have done it? But I'm like, there's no way he could chop off his own head.
No.
Not unless he had like a guillotine or something.
But then with him sitting with his like forearms on his desk and his hands folded,
that's weird though.
Totally done afterwards.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Because I was like,
I think whoever did it probably had to have posed the body that way.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I don't think like if, say, hypothetically, he were like at his desk like that and someone came behind him and chopped his head off, his body would slump over and fall.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
so I'm like, did someone?
I think it was after the fact. He came
but
back
like,
and posed
would
the
it?
body.
There was not, at least nothing said that anything was there to like hold the body up. So how would the body stay?
I don't know.
Upwards.
Maybe if you hit it at just the right time, like right before rigor mortis sets in.
I don't even think they knew what that
They
was.
probably didn't. Maybe they just got really lucky with timing.
Right. Well, and it's like it happened at some point between like nighttime and the morning. I think like it happened in the middle of the night because I think all the kids were sleeping.
Right. It makes you wonder in what order too, because like how loud is it? Are people waking up? Did it kill the dad first and then the family?
Like, was Benny in his office working or something?
Right.
And like they killed him.
And then it was so quiet that no one else heard, so none of the other family woke up.
I mean, if they just, you'd have to have some insane strength to, in one blow
You would.
with an axe, just get someone's head clean off.
Yeah.
So that probably took some time.
So maybe all the family first and then him? I don't know.
I feel like he would have to be first.
Yeah.
Because if he was in the office to start and not moved later.
Mm-hmm. No, I think he was in the office. I just think they posed him in the office.
Because if everyone else was sleeping, is there a possibility that he was killed also in bed and then moved?
There is.
So.
But I feel like, well, I guess they didn't really know blood back then.
Right.
Ooh, speaking of blood, which we'll have to cover. Have you been following that case of Manassas at all?
No.
Okay, so It's been all over the news. People in Virginia, or at least near our area, maybe you excluded, know a little bit. I don't know that much about it. But there was pretty much a Manassas woman who went missing.
Okay.
Her husband, whoever she was living with or whatever, was suspected, but there was no body.
Okay.
So I think they went into his house or something, and Luminol found all the blood that he tried to clean up. And with the amount of blood, they still haven't found the body.
Right.
But with the amount of blood, they know that she had died. Like, there's no way you can lose that much blood and live.
Yeah.
So they think that he dismembered her
Mm.
and did whatever. So he has been charged. First off, he was indicted. He was picked up, like arrested. Now he's being charged with murder.
Mm.
And there's probably going to be a Dateline episode on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But that made me think, back then, if he had been killed in bed, they could have seen the amount of blood and known that he had been killed in bed and then moved. That's why I'm wondering, like, if there's a ton of blood in bed and then the body's gone, you know that 2 people had to make that amount of blood, not just like a lady and the baby. So I'm like, I guess back then they wouldn't have been able to know the forensics behind that.
And I think there was all sorts of people just walking around. I want to see if I can find, I don't think it ever said whether there was a bunch of blood. Like, I don't think it talked about that.
Interesting. But probably also back then it didn't,
Right.
blood's not a big thing.
I'll have to relook because I got a couple of newspapers. But I figured that the blogs that I found it from that are so much easier to read
Right.
summed it up nicely.
Yeah.
So I didn't read them. But
it's like with mine where you were like, oh, is there anyone in the area based on newspapers? Well, I don't know, but some blog I found knew.
the thing is too tiny.
The world may never know. The world will never know, actually. I don't think we'll ever solve this one.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, wild case.
The newspaper page that it's all on. Police jailed friend of victim in axe killing of 6 in cult home. Defined profit, wife, 4 children hacked to death.
Ugh. Like you've said before, they really weren't blunt back then. Or they really were blunt back then.
So it does say father found with head cut off, 5 other victims believed killed during sleep. So maybe he was in his office.
Yeah.
But there's also like mob of 500 attacks 5 dry raiders. Fans riot over race in Windsor. Triangle murder warrants issued. 3 risk lives to get rum 120 years old.
Oh my God.
Mount Rainier dash kills 2. Like,
These are dark times.
like, I don't know if that was like, this is like the sad news page.
And then you can go by the happy news page.
Right. But I was like, God damn.
Yeah. No happiness. So news hasn't really changed much since then.
No, not at all. It's just crazy to kind of see it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I want to go with magic
I like that one the most.
because that would be
You summon something you shouldn't have summoned.
right. Exactly. And we talk about that all the time.
Yes, we do.
So there you go.
Well, interesting.
Yeah. I wanted to try to find more of like, I first saw it and was like, oh, cool. Haunted
Right.
and a murder. Perfect. I could not find any stories from anybody.
Right.
Whether, like, I found a couple, but it was hard to tell if, like, they were talking about that house or a different house on the same street.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, has anyone just, like, walked down the street recently?
To just see.
To just, like, see what's going on? Like, what's up, people?
Yeah.
Because all the places were like, it's supposedly haunted. And I'm like, cool.
Did you go check?
Right. Like, who said this first?
Yeah. How do we know?
How do we know? So I didn't watch any of the YouTube videos, so maybe there was something on there, but
Who knows?
who knows?
But yeah, so maybe for next episode, if I can remember, I will try to look more into the Manassas thing going on.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's a big thing going on here. Shocked you haven't really heard about it.
I don't really watch the news.
I don't either. Actually, a lot of people I work with do. So they're the ones who have told me more so.
And don't you guys watch Dateline? Or
I don't.
they
But
watch
a lot of
Dateline?
people, like, at 1 o'clock, Dateline's on.
Right.
Or no, just kidding. At 12 o'clock, Dateline's on. It goes to 1. That's why we do our walk at 1 o'clock.
Right.
Because, God forbid, we get in the way of Dateline.
At work.
Shush. Hey, it's one of the channels we're allowed to watch.
Uh-huh.
So we watch it.
No judgment here. I'm not your boss.
I love when Discovery comes on and I can watch Contraband. I love that show. And like, I was over at my desk one day and it was like on. I had my headphones off and some people were over at my desk and we were talking about whatever. And one person looks over and goes, "Is that Contraband?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "It's on?" I was like, "Yes." And they like ran to their desk.
Wait, how do you guys? Do you have like mini TVs at your desk?
No, it's just one of the websites we can go to.
Oh.
It's on like our computer, so you can just screen it or stream it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I wouldn't use the word stream because that's not technically what it is, but it's like one
Right.
of the things, like one of the channels that's available for us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, definitely let us know.
Yeah.
I usually wait and look into those things when it's all done.
I don't know when this is going to be done.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to be a while.
Yeah. So we'll give like what we know now.
Yeah, that works.
Rate and review us.
Please.
If you let us know that you did that, we'll send you stickers. We promise we do.
We do. I was more timely this time.
Yes, you are actually.
There was less shit going on.
That is true.
So,
It's the holiday season, so enjoy that as you will. If you want to not enjoy it, no.
what?
I don't know. If you're not enjoying it, listen to our podcast. It'll make you happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we should go.
Okay. Stay scary.
Stay safe.